for truth.
Welcome to Duality Check, the podcast where two brothers embark on a journey through the realms of scientific inquiry, the mysteries of the past, and the uncharted frontiers of spirituality. Join us as we explore the wonders of our world and beyond, all while embracing the roles of curious bystanders rather than experts. Together, we'll unravel the tapestry of existence, blending the dichotomies of knowledge and wonder. Get ready to question, ponder, and delve into the dualities that shape our understanding of reality on Duality Check. I'm Drew.
And I'm Dean, and welcome to episode 52.
52.
That's like a year without being a year, because I think we dropped 3 episodes on the first week. So
Yeah.
But that's a year's worth of episodes.
Yeah, man. It's crazy. It's been a year now.
Yeah.
Wow.
I've been having a blast.
I'm having a great time with this.
Yeah.
And we're getting better. We're getting better and better, and we're trying out a new setup today.
Yeah, so
Because we got a lot to go over.
We're going to be doing a whole episode on the New Jersey mystery drones.
I'm sure you all have seen them, whether you're interested in them or not. They've been blasted all over X and all over social media.
Well, and even the mainstream media is
They're
covering
starting to cover it now.
Yeah, it's definitely blowing up, and so I've got like a million different like tweets and videos and YouTube videos and all sorts of stuff to share, and we can just talk about it and see what we come out of this thinking.
Yeah. There's a lot to look at.
And then, of course, we usually record this on Fridays and release on Tuesday. So by the time you see this, of course, there's probably going to be a lot of new developments. But
hopefully.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, hopefully. And if there is, we'll cover those too.
Mm-hmm.
But before we get into that, we have plenty, so it'll be most of the show. But I just want to talk to Drew about this podcast that our brother John sent us.
I'm excited to hear because I know he sent it. You listened to it today, right?
I've only listened to the first 3 episodes. There's 10 episodes.
What was it called again?
It's called the Telepathy Tapes. It's this right here.
Yeah. So what is?
Let's actually, you know what? They've got a trailer here. Let's just watch this.
My son said to me, "I can hear thoughts." And I said, "Impossible." And he said to me, "You don't get the kind of gifts that I have if you lie."
Let's please multiply 2 numbers and see if he gets it.
Okay, what is it?
9 0 0.
Unbelievable. 1. Maybe shuffle again, Dr. Powell. Oh.
+2.
So he got the plus, too.
I was wondering, because I was looking at the 2 the whole time, and I saw his hand going somewhere else.
What is this phenomena happening? Why are his mind and my mind completely connected?
I knew that a lot of people would think, boy, Diane's gone off the deep end. But that's the risk any scientist takes when they challenge the current paradigm.
Joining us today to shed some light, Dr. Diane Powell.
I'm working with children who have been reported by a parent to be able to read their mind. The data was so compelling and accurate that I had to follow it, even though I knew I was risking my scientific reputation. I started testing them, and I found that they were exceedingly accurate.
What is the next number?
3.
After the medical board took my license away, I had to prove my sanity. Once I did, I said, I'm going to prove that ESP is real.
Dr. Tarrant, he's done these QEEG scans to see what's going on.
The biggest overall finding is really this increase of activation across all the brain waves. If there was no change, I would definitely be skeptical.
If you can show a consistent pattern, particularly from kid to kid, that's how science changes. You cannot fake this.
We want answers like, where does it come from?
I want to know how and what are we supposed to do?
We can't all be crazy.
We are far more powerful than we can imagine, and the implications are huge for humanity and the planet.
Dude,
Whoa.
That was
not at all what I was expecting.
Yeah. I am absolutely hooked.
It's a
I
video
almost
podcast too, huh?
Oh, no, it's an audio podcast, but she is a filmmaker.
Okay.
And so she's releasing this 10-part audio podcast, but she's also editing together a documentary film, and that will be coming later.
Nice.
Bro, I almost want to just like stop podcasting and keep listening to that. I'm freaking hooked.
Really?
I just started listening today, and like I was like, no, I
need to get the next
I don't want to get like partway into an episode before I start podcasting. So I was driving over here. I was like, I'll just pause it, and I drove over the rest of the way in silence. I was like, I did the whole thing at once.
Wow.
So they're doing. Oh, by the way, pardon, I'm getting over being sick, so there's gonna be some coughing, and I don't know if I sound a little nasally. If so, I apologize.
Nah, not too bad.
But each episode they sort of start expanding on what is actually going on, or like what these children are capable of. So essentially what this scientist has found is that specifically these nonverbal or like verbal challenged autistic children, first off, it's already hotly contested that, so for a long time, parents with children that way have been like told that their child isn't in there, that they aren't, that there is no like really like,
there's no spark. There's no,
that they're not exactly even really
thinking.
And that they have no hope of ever like
communicating.
Living a. And so through this system of teaching them to like point at letters, if you can, if you set it up properly, because apparently the problem with them is the fine motor control. And it takes a lot of fine motor control to speak and to write and all of the ways that we typically communicate. So if you can teach them these like pointing methods, and then ultimately like there's a bunch of apps on like iPads and stuff that make nice big keyboards for them to be able to point with and stuff, and that can like auto-complete words and make it easier for them. So now you can start opening up communication, and that is already a huge breakthrough. But once that started happening and that breakthrough was made, these children started exhibiting, communicating with their parents in ways that gave their parents the idea that they were telepathic, that they could read the parents' thoughts and minds, and they would even say such things to the parents. And so the scientist has basically been studying that.
Sounds like she made it her life's mission.
Yeah.
To now prove that these parents and their children, who the world may have written off as never being able to live a full life, and is now actually have the ability, and they have that strong connection with their parent specifically. And maybe it's extended past that. I don't know if they're going to get into that later on.
So that's how they start, is like they start with the narrowest of claims, right? So they start with just introducing you to the idea that they can communicate. And then they introduce you to the idea that they can communicate telepathically with their parent. And then they introduce you to the idea that they can, it's more than just like words. It's more than just like
finishing a thought, or
so they would originally they would do tests like having the child look one direction and be blindfolded and like cut off any reflections, like really control it so that there's no way that the child can see, and then have the parent look at a word or a number, and then the child will write write that out. And the craziest thing is that like she's talking about, like their percentages of accuracy are like 95%. Like this is not like even the most talented remote viewers and stuff, like your Ingo Swans and stuff, like they were, the military considered them, pretty effective. But Like this is
so like in like I remember the one story for Ingo Swann was like 60-something%.
Right.
Like, and that was like the peak of
Right.
their abilities.
Whereas for these children, like, well, they're not all children anymore, but for these people, they are. I think she calls them spellers. I think it's a nice.
It's the term that she's using.
Yeah. For these spellers, they went for so much of their life not having, the ability to communicate. And, it kind of makes me feel like people who are born without some of their senses, they usually get heightened senses elsewhere. And I feel like it's probably a similar thing with these.
Yeah, like the lack of ability to communicate physically may give you some heightened ability to communicate telepathically or like using your brain in a different way, so instead of having to use your body.
There's tests with numbers and words, but then there's tests with pictures, and then there's tests with like ideas, and then you hear stories from the parents talking about how they'll come home and their child will tell them like everything they did that day, and then these parents are realizing like everything that goes through their mind is an open book to their child, which is crazy. Wow. Position to be in as a parent.
Yeah.
The episode I'm on now they're starting to get to some of them are communicating that they have friends and they hang out with their friends in this place they call the Hill, which is essentially like a place where all of these spellers go and like hang out together.
Wow.
And there's been like verified like friendships made between these children who are states across and have never met in real like physical life. And
what the hell?
Dude, it's crazy. It's crazy. And on top of that, it's incredibly moving because when you hear these parents tell the story of these poor children who have no way to express themselves to the world, who, this one mom tells her story about these doctors beating her down, essentially just trying to get her to give up on her child. And how at some point she finally did. And that at one point, like a miracle happens where her child talks for the first time in his life when he was like 17 or 18 and says mom. And he says, I love you. And on a day where she had like just this terrible day and she's just laying on her bed exhausted. And she decides then to not give up. And then she discovers this way of teaching him how to communicate. And then she starts discovering that he has these abilities. Wow. And like, yeah, man, it's super moving and really important. I think.
I need to listen to this.
Yeah, so I can't recommend this highly enough.
Yeah, and you're only, 3 episodes in?
I'm only 3 episodes in. I have no idea where this is going.
I looked through, it's like 10 episodes for this audio, and it seems like they're doing a documentary and some other stuff in the future too, maybe a season 2 or whatever.
And then if you
that's amazing,
want to like get some visuals to go along with it, she's got videos of the tests with the children and stuff that you can get, but you do have to pay for access to these.
Which sounds like it's going to a good cause.
Right, it is. And she talks about that here. That I'll just read it. Get anytime access to our growing collection of telepathy tapes, exclusive content, interviews, behind the scenes footage, and more. She says the tests you see in Telepathy Tapes library are an essential part of the project's foundation, conducted by director Kai Dickens with a small film crew. These initial sessions took place in the homes of non-speakers and their families. They were designed as proof of concepts research to verify the authenticity of telepathy among non-speakers and to determine whether the extraordinary phenomena was worth pursuing as a documentary. These early tests validated the need for deeper exploration and provided the inspiration to take the project to the next level. She talks about how essentially the payment of this is going to basically help her fund the full-blown documentary. So,
yeah. Good cause.
Yeah, it is a good cause.
Wow.
Yeah.
You remember last week, I believe it was last week, we were talking about how how everybody experiences, they have their own individual experience, and how our brains may be communicating at a level that we don't understand or don't have any way of understanding it. But it seems like it might be innate in all of us, this idea of non-verbal communication. Mm-hmm. It's just whether you're attuned or have the right vibe. I guess maybe the fact that you're nonverbal may be a trigger for such types of things within your mind.
Well, I was thinking about this, and in a way, it's almost that your body is forcing you into deep meditation.
Yeah.
Where you can't interact with the world. I mean, what is it that people who seek enlightenment are looking for? They're looking for you to disconnect from the world. They're looking for you to be with yourself, with your thoughts and in your mind. And these, children have no choice but to do that.
Right. Yeah. No. That's and exactly the people who are seeking enlightenment. What is it that they do? They isolate themselves. They are oftentimes these Buddhas those Buddhists and these monks that are fully spend their lives trying to attain this. They are totally secluded. A lot of times they do self isolation as far as sensory deprivation and other stuff like that, and it's kind of the same idea, right? It's removing yourself from the material world, and what better way to do that than not being able to communicate what you're thinking,
right?
If you have all these things going on in your mind and you cannot get it out, that completely removes you, in a sense, from all the interactions.
Right. All the distractions, all the interactions, all the things that you can busy your brain and your body with other than, yourself and your mind and your thoughts. And so if you live your life there, what... So, but what are the implications of this? Yeah. Can these, spellers help people understand how this actually works? What are the implications for humanity as a whole? How does this relate to, religion? How does it relate to reincarnation, out-of-body experiences, near-death experiences? What is the nature of consciousness? And
what is actually happening in our brains?
Yeah, one of the mothers prefers to, instead of calling it telepathy, she prefers to call it shared consciousness. So what is the nature of that? She sort of describes her interaction with her son as their fields interacting. This just is... Wow. And this is so well done. It's so well edited. It's very high production value. She's put so much work into this, and it's really worth everyone's time to check this out. I can't recommend it highly enough.
Awesome.
So we'll forgive you if you need to binge this before you watch our next episode after
or
this
even
one.
Finish this episode if you want to go and binge this right after you hear this.
Right. Anyway,
we'll see you back after the 10 episodes.
Cool. So let's get into our topic for the day.
Mystery drones.
Yeah.
What the hell is going on the East Coast?
And as a primer for that, we just have some sort of UFO related things we wanted to share that'll just kind of get our heads in this space. Probably we're going to overshoot the target a little bit with these videos, but
these aren't specific to the active drone stuff going on the East Coast and all over the world. There's reports all over the world. But let's watch a couple of these ones.
I thought we had done this one before, had we not?
I think we had mentioned it, but this is interesting because of the 3 different views.
Yeah, so here we go. I'm gonna full screen this. So this is I don't know how real this is, but this is claims of the MH370 flight on infrared video.
Isn't that the one that disappeared?
Yeah. So you see these 3 orbs flying around the plane.
And then there's these other 2 videos side by side. One's from 2013 in Spain, and the other one doesn't have any description. But
no,
it's
that one's the
video.
MH372, also
on the
from a
bottom
different from
the ground.
Yeah,
a different angle.
So what's going on there?
Well, and yeah, we've heard reports from commercial flight airliners too who have seen stuff in the air. So anyway, we're just trying to set the stage here for what we're going to be talking about. What's the next one?
This next one, let's refresh that.
So this is a supposed leak from NASA.
One of the space shuttle flights. These 2 orbs flying up to the shuttle. They just look like aluminum orbs. And the space shuttle hasn't flown since what? The 90s or early 2000s?
Space shuttle was, I think the early 2000s was one of the last flights. You can hear them talking about it over the radio.
Right.
Calling them UFOs.
But they almost seem to be like moving as one now.
Yeah, it's almost like they're linked now.
Yeah.
Like you could see that they were clearly ascending up towards the shuttle.
Yeah.
And then they just kind of froze, and then they're just kind of circling each other.
We got somebody out the front window with a pair of binoculars and a zoom lens. We're trying to get a pretty good idea on this thing.
And we copy that.
Interesting.
Yeah, that seems to be
interesting. So the description on this tweet says NASA releases actual footage of UFOs approaching the space shuttle. 2 small UFOs investigating the technical performance of the space shuttle. The aliens believe that human technological capabilities are still childish. I think that is riddled full of assumptions there.
I was going to say that's a lot of assumptions. There's no factual information in there. It's more of their opinion.
Like even starting with, I don't believe NASA released this. This had to have been a leak of some sort. There's no way they would release that.
No, if it's real video, I doubt NASA's just like, hell, hey, here you guys go.
A lot of people in the comments are saying it's debunked. I haven't seen anyone link or show the debunking. So if anyone knows more about this, I would love to.
Yeah, and if you're just listening to this podcast, if you want to see the video, go to YouTube and Rumble.
Oh, by the way, for this podcast in particular, we're going to be sharing a ton of video, and everything we're talking about is very visual. So I would recommend checking it out on YouTube or Rumble to get the full experience for this particular episode. So just search Duality Check on either platform. We'll come right up.
Yep.
All right, so here is another one. So this is
from Ethical Truther, and it's kind of giving you a baseline of like what it is that is seen in the night sky. And this is an infrared or a night vision camera staring up at the sky, and they show birds and they show satellites, they show an airplane, and then UFOs. They show a UFO.
All of the above are in one video from one camera, and you can see the difference between them, which is super useful. So let's check this one out. So we got birds flying in a V. We've got
satellites,
slow-moving satellites above head. You can tell because they have a very uniform
trajectory.
Motion.
That's a plane with the blinking lights.
Mm-hmm.
And boom. And he's like, whoa.
Yeah, he turns the camera down.
And you can clearly see the change of direction.
At this point, it kind of looks like could be a satellite maybe, but then
bam.
Oop, it just
90-degree turn.
Sharp 90-degree turn.
And then it goes back the other way, I believe. Or no, it blinks out. That's what it is.
Yeah.
Clearly different.
Yeah.
Clearly there's a clear distinction between all 4 of those things.
Right. The phenomenology of the 4 things are quite distinct.
Yeah.
Yeah. Love it. I'll show that in a second.
Okay.
All right, I just want to go over this real quick because if you recall, we've been talking about this sort of like prediction that the 39 days after Trump was interviewed by Joe Rogan, right?
That's right.
So for those who missed the origins of this whole alien invasion on December 3rd thing, here you go. Let's check this out.
This situation within the data in 2009 that had been reinforced over the years from 2009 through to 2015 that said that 39 days after this TM took place, we would have and this is where Igor and I did our fighting, we would have this visible contention that would dissolve into a melee. And at the time, and even in our conversations here recently, he wanted to say, and I'll title this way in honor of Igor here, but he wanted to say that it was 39 days to melee, which is a catchy phrase. Okay, it'd be a nice title for a book or something. But in my opinion, it's not quite accurate, right? Because we don't know what the distance is between the organized visible contention that then degrades into the melee. That might be months for all we know. But what we do have some justification for suggesting is that there will be 39 days between the temporal marker of the Trump interview and the appearance of this visible contention. And we're not talking, people taking on migrant gangs that are taking over apartment buildings. That kind of visible contention may well be in there, but the stuff that had been motivating me to get hold of Dick Allgaier was the visible contention between space aliens. Okay, so, or whatever, right? Alien reproduction vehicles or whatever the hell. Who knows what's going on? Because we can't validate any of it at this point, right? Now we've got that same set of linguistics again, and apparently we have confirmation that the interview will take place, and therefore we'll have it as a temporal marker itself. And so that sets going a sort of a timer. Bear in mind what I was telling you about how we get these times, right? It's software adding up all of this shit based on all these words, and we're constantly wrong to some great degree. And it varies based on the size of the set, the amount of processing it takes, and yada, yada, yada. So it's not like any kind of guaranteed date or anything, right? It is just, I am alluding to the possibility that there's a short period of time between the, barely over a month between the temporal marker and the visible contention that will appear in the skies that from the descriptors we had back in 2009 will go to the idea of UFO versus UFO and UFO versus jets. Okay, so like sort of very complex kind of Independence Day kind of shit, right? Nobody will know who the hell is doing what with whom. Now, okay, so you think that's unlikely and so on, as do I. All this shit's always unlikely until it happens. Possible, not probable, right? So anyway, now we have a strange thing where there's swarms of 20-foot drones flying around military bases. So unknown. Nobody knows who owns these drones, who's controlling them. At least they're not telling us guys. I would suspect that the military would be freaking out if they can't see the signals that are directing those drones, and those drones are a Kavas weapon, where one of the, okay, so I won't describe it, but basically you set off a group of drones that don't report back to headquarters until they're all done. Okay, they don't ever say anything back to headquarters at all. All their communications are between the drones. If drone number one that's leading the pack gets taken out just like a flight of geese, then the number two takes over, et cetera, et cetera. That's a particular kind of a design. I worked on something like that in the 70s and implemented it for some software for the Department of Fisheries.
So I take it this is one of the guys involved in designing the software that made the prediction.
It sounded like it.
Yeah.
Is the guy who posted this the guy in the video?
Reed Summers. That does not look like him. This guy looks too young to be that guy.
Yeah. Media personality, okay.
Yeah. Plus, this sounds like it's part of a bigger presentation, but
It does,
this ought to be able to be found. I didn't do further digging to see where this was coming from or who he was.
Well, we'll dig into that too, maybe, and
I'll
bring it
dig
into the
that
next
more.
one.
Anyway,
But yeah,
so
no, I think
we
that's
kind of did last episode and we're just like, well, guess it didn't happen.
Right.
And now we're here in this episode to be like, well, maybe not so fast.
Yeah, because I started hearing about it like probably the next day.
Right.
When I started
it was
hearing about
probably a couple days after that for me, and I got sick after the last episode, and so I was like sitting at home watching a bunch of like internet stuff, and that's when I started coming across it. Anyway, so let's take our first break, and then we're gonna dive deep and let's see what we can figure out about these New Jersey drones.
All right.
This is Stevie Nader, and the song's called Make You.
Feel better when I tell you forever. Make you feel better when I tell you forever. Make you feel better when I tell you forever, ever, ever, ever. Make you feel better when I tell you forever, ever, 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 ever.
She faded, I'm faded too. Faded, I'm faded too. She faded, I'm faded too. Faded, I'm faded. I woke up before the sun. Really ain't one for sleeping by the woman of my dreams. And I ain't much of a dreamer. Ciroc and Pellegrino on rocks. We out in Reno and walk out the casino. Hit slots for a few Cinos. She faded, I'm faded too. Grabbing me out in public, telling me that she loves it. We taking it to the room, and maybe I'm taking shrooms. I'm probably taking shrooms. It's one up with the Princess Peaches. I'm eating brunch like it's noon. Hey, baby, we can do it. Take your time, take your time. I'ma give you this here best shit of your life, of your life. Just some wine, sip some wine. We gon' bear for a while. I know a couple ways to make you smile, make you mine. Alright, 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 let's go. 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 Let's go. Let's go. Let's go. Make you feel better when I tell you forever, ever, ever, ever. Make you feel better when I tell you forever, ever, 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 ever. Feel like I'm tripping off of something I can't feel. Hallucinations. Losing patience, so the pace is racing. What's real now? I'm just trying to swerve to these blurred lines. These turbines ain't fast enough. Either that or I'm faded, faced it, base waist to the fattest. This mind state that I'm standing in ain't right, cause I've been staring back into this mirror, telling my fist not to take flight. What I really need is my painkiller, my space filler, my love. My beta station gon' stay trill, calling my date quiller, my drug. I need that. It feel better when we lay back and go slow. It may take forever, but it makes it better when we both know we both grow. So I'll take this shot of this Bronco while you babysit on that glass. I'll lay back on this cruise control until we hit the flow with that gas. It's alright.
You feel better when I tell you forever. Let's go. Let's go. Make you feel better when I tell you forever, ever, ever, ever. Let's go. Make you feel better when I tell you forever. Let's go. Let's go. Make you feel better when I tell you forever, ever, 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 ever. Let's go. Let's go.
All right. So Drew and I got to talking on the break. So now we have to do something else. Did you send the link in there?
No, I've got the timestamp. So if you want to, just pull up the 2234.
Set us up here.
So we had started talking outside on a break, and I had just brought up the fact that this moment on a recent podcast with Joe Rogan with Mark Andreessen, who himself is like an entrepreneur,
he's like a Silicon
tech
Valley
guy,
VC investor,
and he's really into conspiracy theories and a lot of this,
he's pretty conservative with them, but yes,
he's very into them still. He loves to entertain the ideas, whether he believes them or not. He entertains them all, and he's able to like formulate an argument on both sides because he's able to separate. He's open-minded. But he had mentioned that a buddy of his made a connection between the times where we are, some say we're currently in them, but definitely coming up in the future of technology, exponentially growing with AI and robots, and the world is going to look different in 20 years.
Right. And what type of world is that actually going to be?
Yeah. And are we ready for it? And can we really think that we're as ready as we could be? Right. And so his buddy is a religious scholar and a history of religion scholar, and he made the connection, or he made the point that people, and I go further back than he does, but he says that people in medieval times are more ready for what is coming up. And we'll just play this clip real quick of that.
You can move a lot more quickly.
And G-forces.
Much higher
Oh, sorry.
Forces.
Yeah.
And you said
2735, sorry.
2735.
That was the name of the number of the episode.
All right, here we go.
So a friend of mine is a religious scholar. He teaches at Catholic University, and he's a religious history scholar. And he says that medieval people were psychologically better prepared for the era ahead of us, with AI and robots and drones everywhere, than we are, because medieval people took it for granted that they lived in a world with higher powers, higher spirits, angels, demons, all kinds of supernatural entities, and it was just assumed to be true. And in the world we're heading into, that we're arguably already in, there are going to be these, new forces, these new entities running around doing things. And we're going to struggle, and we're going to catastrophize. We're going to conclude, like AI is the end of the world.
Yeah.
The medievals would have said, it's just another spirit. It's just another kind of entity. Yeah. It's better. It's better than humans at some things, but so are angels. And so we're going to have to change our mentality. We're almost going to have to become a little bit more medieval. We're going to have to open up our minds to the kinds of entities that we're dealing with.
Wow.
Yeah. I think that's a great comparison. And Dean made the point that, at the time period may have been less because of the separation of...
No, you said that.
Well, you said that as the common person.
Oh, yeah. So, the only thing is during the medieval period, but his point is more accurate. If you were, in Europe and you were a peasant and you just went to, Catholic church every day, you had a certain worldview, probably, right?
Yeah, and you were fully accepted
part of that worldview
because the society reinforced what you were being told and what you were learning.
Right.
So, within the church. So society reinforces what it is that you're experiencing and what it is that you're being told and taught about. So it's going to be easier for you to accept when those types of things happen.
It's interesting, yeah, because an AI is in certain ways pretty similar to what you could describe as an angel or a demon,
with real capabilities to do both great good and great evil in certain hands, right?
Yeah, it's gonna fundamentally change everything about the way society works.
And his point, we're gonna have to kind of rewire our brains
Yeah.
To actually accept what's happening, what's coming, you know?
That's true. There's a lot of people who do not accept when things change. And the current worldview, well, the current like sort of top-down scientifically and governmentally and politically and reinforced worldview is this like materialistic, cold, dead world. But that has been trying to like force itself on top of all of these religions that already existed. And so there's still a lot of people who already believe in those things.
True.
And there's also been like a movement and an awakening of people coming to terms with like newer, well, like the New Age movement and like just newer open-mindedness about how consciousness works.
Yeah.
There's even a group of scientists who are like ready to take it that direction. So it's interesting that as at the same time as we're going to be going into this crazy high-tech ability for so many things to happen, we're also going in this like consciousness sort of opening up the possibilities of what's actually humans and consciousness are capable of.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and then with the technology itself on top of that, like the advancement of technology and the willingness to be open-minded about what is what is happening and what we're all experiencing and how to change that and how to like collectively change our consciousness for like, it's all.
When there's a true super intelligence, its ability to see past like the biases that humans have, I think it'll be really, really interesting to see what AI does with like consciousness research and psychic phenomena research. And in theory, if it's programmed properly, should just, take those things on the validity of the data and like see it for what it is rather than with the biases from its society like us humans have. But
and also
in certain ways AIs are only as good as their training too. So
but once you get that true so the training is one thing, but the ability to teach itself like to like choose the direction it goes, like once there's like true self-awareness of itself and its ability,
once it's able to do novel scientific research as well,
and the ability
it's going to just start teaching us things
and
how the world works.
Even now, like you can feed it certain questions. It's just whether it's locked in what it is allowed to tell you,
right?
So like, or what it's allowed to, like the PC nature of it. You could see that programming already being built into some of these, and like how like there's certain things it won't say or things it won't criticize if
Elon
you
Musk
ask it
makes that
certain
point
questions
a lot, and that's why it's really exciting to see that he's
got Grok
so far in the lead with the training hardware. He just recently shattered the theoretical limit of what how many of these like processing units people thought you could network together.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and he just like shattered that limit.
So as far as like how many he's actually putting
how many
together?
Of these like APU units
that he's got
connected. He's built the biggest
it's like a neural net
training farm that has existed, and people said couldn't scientifically be made to work because it's too many connections to too many units, and they made it happen. So
so he's moving forward with.
He talks about that in this podcast, I believe, too.
Oh, okay.
But so that's explosion is happening right now, and since he just shattered the ceiling, someone else is going to come and shatter it again, and we're going to have this like multiplying runway effect of like compute and train ability. So
it's going to this might be the beginning of the end of governments too, because you could see the application of something like that, and especially now, like you could feed it like give it some explanation of what I guess you would need all the information, but you could technically ask it like a question, like give it an explanation or all the data as far as like how the government is run and all, and basically what Elon's going to do in real time with Doge. Be like, what is the most efficient way to run a government that you give it the Constitution and you give it all the guidelines as far as like what it should be allowed to do?
Well, if it can read human history and it knows everything we've ever done,
right,
and it knows all the ideas we've thrown at the wall and what we're trying to achieve, like it could come up with something pretty incredible. I would lean towards no government, but
it wouldn't be a government.
Yeah.
The reason I mean it's the end, it's the beginning of the end.
Over everyone.
It's the beginning of the end of governments in the sense of like if we give the AI the ability to just structure or at least give humans guideline or like help like maintaining a non-governmental world. By helping facilitate with the communication and maintaining the structures of the communication across the world, because you still need
are you trying this is weird, like I find myself coming around to like what that Peter Joseph guy used to talk about back in the day with the Venus Project.
I remember that one.
You remember Zeitgeist, the old internet movie back in the day?
Oh yeah.
The Zeitgeist 2 and beyond, like that's when they got into this idea of the Venus Project, which is essentially having like a central AI controlled economy and world government. But it isn't even a government. It's just the AI takes care of everything for us. But it is pretty socialist with the way it applies that. And I think that's making assumptions on what the AI would actually do.
Well, yeah, that's absolutely making assumption. That's almost because the person who is having that idea has those tendencies.
Right.
But I think that it could be that the AI, if it was to get to that point, and we allow it, and we don't, there's no anyway. If it ever gets to that point where it has that control, I would more imagine it being like just the facilitator of all the things, like the trade and communication between all the different areas of the world. So if it was to be the one in the position of having communication and like making sure all of the things that always happen, like the free trade and the making sure that if somebody is using aggression, like an individual is using an aggression towards another person, like it has just it keeps all of the standards, and maybe it's what finds like a group of people who are able to make a judgment on individual, like I'm thinking of like arbitration, like you get like a group of people that look at both sides of an argument between two people, like all the way down to like local crimes and stuff, because government's the one who handles that, and like somebody's got to do it. And if either you can have people do that, or you can have the AI be like, no, these people have been shown to be the most fair, so they bring people from all over, and they're connected from all different parts of the world. The AI facilitating all that. I guess, in reality, humans can do this.
I think it just,
without
in actual fact, like
it could make it all better.
Well, it could just essentially make everything else unnecessary.
Yeah.
And there's a bunch of like libertarian anarchist thinkers in the past who've theorized about like a sort of sci-fi. So one of my favorite anarchist libertarians is this guy Stefan Kinsella, and he's a intellectual property attorney, and he was the one like pioneering the idea within libertarian circles that copyright and patents are unjust in a libertarian society, that they are violating human rights, basically. Anyway, he also does some like sci-fi theorizing about like where, just talking about him and his views as a libertarian. He's like a sci-fi nerd. And so for instance, if we had the ability to have a special machine, a super advanced 3D printer, like a little gun you could carry around, think super ultra sci-fi Rick and Morty device.
Yeah.
And you can just like put in a plan for anything, whether it's food, whether it's an object, whether it's a car, whether it's anything you need, and it can just rearrange the molecules in front of it in that configuration, and you can just essentially duplicate anything.
So just have anything at any time. You just point and click, and you just,
In a world like that, the idea of theft changes.
Sure.
And the idea of interactions change, right? Like, what does it even mean to steal something when anyone can have anything instantaneously?
Does it have any meaning anymore? Yeah.
Right. And that would, then you would start to maybe see society move towards like, well, only certain things that have like a sentimental or personal value or touch, like that's yours.
But if you could just pop in a new one, that's the exact same thing.
Right.
Unless you take into account wear and tear or.
Right. Impatterning of information.
The way you hold an object.
Doodled on your notebook.
Yeah, the way you hold an object has a certain rub and feel. So now
Right.
it feels different. It feels a certain way in your hand. Even that kind of stuff.
Right. Well, interesting. Anyway, but he also made another point that like I've heard someone else make this point, that if you, like, let's say have you seen the movie Dune?
No.
Oh man,
I hadn't gotten hooked.
You're
by
such
that
a Star Wars nerd. I figured you would
honestly,
like it.
I just have. No, I probably would. I just never watched the old ones, so I was never really all that
don't watch
interested
the old
in
ones.
the new ones.
The new ones are great though.
I just thought it was like a cult thing, and I never watched the first one, so no, I haven't seen them yet.
Anyway, so
but I probably would like it.
It's a super futuristic, like 10,000 years in the future from us or something. And they have this technology where you can just like tap a button and it puts a shield over your body. So imagine if you had like a force field, but even better than Dune, like one that just no one could hurt you.
Nothing happened. Nothing can happen to you externally, right?
Right. That would change everything and the way things work. And like governments couldn't hold their power because they couldn't threaten you with force because you could protect yourself. Right. So in certain ways, technology, if it becomes so advanced to the extreme, can change the nature of what a human society would end up being. And so having an ultra advanced AI
would be similar to that.
Right. If there's limits to our scientific understanding when it learns from us, and then it knows, okay, well, this is as far as the humans took it. I can take it this far through my logic. Now I need to go experiment and do empirical research in the world. Let me print together some robots and program them to go run this test over here. They'll go fly to Arizona, dig here, isolate this element, run this chemical test,
right?
Bring
and
back
it's
the
all
results.
happening like so fast, like
and it's
boom,
just
boom,
constantly
boom, boom.
growing the knowledge base.
And you would imagine in that sort of world, right, where, you know, especially because we're getting to the point where everybody's going to have some form of robot in their house probably in the next 50 years, I would imagine. Some form of robot that does chores for you, that does things for you, that interacts with you, that you can have, it's personalized, whatever. And if that super intelligence is somehow, like in this world that we're kind of painting here with this like super intelligent, you know, benevolent helper AI that wants to help advance our mission as humans on this planet, right? Imagine, you know, if everybody is in agreement that this is a good thing, right? At least most people, and you have something like that that's connected inside your home and it's always collecting data because you agree that it should know because it's not going to use it against you. Whatever it's collecting, right? It's only using it to help better understand what it is that humans are experiencing and going through.
Well, it's just essentially a being. Like, you're choosing to live a life around it, and you just know that's part of life.
Exactly.
This
so you
is why,
accept it within your
like the telepathy
life.
tapes has a very similar effect. Like if we start understanding that like real telepathy and like real mind reading and real ability to share consciousness is an actual thing, that's going to have a similar effect on us too. Like you have to be conscious of your state of mind and the way you think and the things you fill your head with in a world where people can
manipulate it,
see what's happening in that head of yours.
And manipulate it in a sense too. Like, especially if there's telepathy, you know, I don't know. I mean, I'm thinking of the early stages. Like I'm thinking early stages, like everybody, like if there's like a light switch and like everybody's just able to hear everybody's thoughts all of a sudden, or even if it's like a 10-year period, like within that 10-year period where it's like the people who hadn't experienced life at all with it, and now they're all of a sudden like they're going to go crazy. It's the generations after that that have
well, it all
lived
depends,
their entire lives with that
it all
ability.
depends on your attitude towards it.
Sure,
which could,
but it's still gonna be a big shift in your consciousness and your understanding of what's going on in your brain. Like that's gonna be, unless it's like a super calming thing, like it like makes you feel less stressed. But I could imagine just automatic, like all of a sudden hearing people's thoughts would be pretty intense.
Yeah, so pretty interesting stuff there.
It definitely sparked some thoughts there.
It sparked some thoughts. It would be a different world for sure. And AI could essentially provide everything for us. There's a sense in which, you know, we are at such a weird crossroad, because if it goes bad, and there are ways that it could go bad and become a nightmare scenario, and a lot of people are scared of that, and you hear a lot of people talking about that, but you have to take all things in balance.
Gotta balance it, yeah.
And there's also scenarios where this is the best thing that has ever happened to humanity, and it's
going to be a growing period.
Solves so many of the problems.
Well, it's like
exist.
It's just like everything in life, right? Something bad happens, right? And through that horrible experience, you meet the love of your life, or through that horrible experience, you have some sort of revelation, and it doesn't automatically mean just because something bad in one moment that everything after that is going to be horrible.
Right.
And it's the same thing with something good happens, right? Like something good happens, something bad is going, like it's just nothing. It's everything moment is fleeting, and to just remember that it can help you through some, hard stuff.
And that obviously brings us back to the Alan Watts and Carl Jung episode.
Yeah.
Like, that's essentially what they're trying to get at. Like within the dark there is the light, and within the light there is the dark, and they twist around each other and they turn into each other. And not anything. It's weird when something bad happens to you and then something so good comes from that bad thing and you never would have seen it. Interesting. All right, let's take our next break.
Damn, did we do a whole segment on that?
We did a whole segment on that, so
that derailed. But it's all right. We're gonna hit some videos. We're gonna get back into some mystery drones.
We'll
after
represent
the break.
that in the episode title, because that's a good part of the talk. On our way towards a crazy AI future is a world where drones are flying around everywhere, and a world where we have to figure out what's going on with UFOs. And we've got some questions, and we've got some shit flown around in the skies that we're going to have to figure out.
Yeah, and if it's at all something, extraterrestrial, ultra-terrestrial, or what's an extra-tempestrial?
Yeah, it all has big implications. So,
but yeah, we'll talk about it after the break.
This is TJ McNulty, Soul for Sale.
Notion personality. Given the way things are going, it would be a given if it didn't stop unraveling. Well, I have pity thoughts for believing. Well, hell, I pity thoughts of my own. It wouldn't be a given if it were given to me, but those are faults of my own. Well, I always wanted to speak so smoothly, like I was born with a tongue of glass, but I gave away the language given to me. Now it's just a story of my past.
sadly enough, I'm nothing but a boy with a soul for sale. Well, I never think to stick my toes into cold water, 'cause I imagine those depths to swallow me whole. And I always listen to the lessons from my father, but I failed to make his morals my own. 'Cause I never thought to be scared of anything but everything. Well, now it scares the shit out of me. 'Cause I always wanted to be the one who was strong-headed, but I realize my strongholds are weak. Well, I would be a man to admit to my fails. Well, sadly enough, I'm nothing but a boy with a soul for sale.
Welcome back. Hello. Right, let's get into these drones, man. We kept going for a bit.
Yeah, and if we talk about what we were just talking about outside, that'll be the rest of the show.
And I couldn't recreate it now anyway.
No, but we got to keep playing with those.
Yeah.
I thought.
Yeah.
And we'll definitely bring it back up because I like those ideas.
It's sort of like blending all the ideas we've been talking about on the podcast over time.
Yeah, we're working on a manifesto.
Yeah, right. All right, cool. So I think we'll start this off with some like news clips. Okay. I think that's a good place to start. So
tonight, the investigation into reports of small car-sized drones hovering over New York and New Jersey is deepening.
Oh, it's slowing down.
Tonight, authorities in Toms River, New Jersey, launching their own drone offensive for a closer look. Their eye in the sky, capturing one of the drones in motion.
You're not targeting or going after them, so to speak. Is there a methodology and reason why?
Well, right now we just want to identify what it is. The way it was explained, they're 2 feet bigger than our drones, or 2 times the size rather, so they're about 4 feet, and it looks like it's a fixed wing type craft. What concerns us mostly is that at this point nobody's seen any of these units taking off or landing.
This is a significant threat to U.S. national security.
Retired 4-star general and NBC News military analyst Barry McCaffrey tells NBC News there's good reason why local and federal agencies are treading carefully.
When you see something of this capacity, you wonder why it would be needed. What are they doing? It implies a heavy payload, and a heavy payload would be either something dangerous, a bomb, but in this case, surveillance of some sort.
Look what's back again. Same spot as last night.
Meanwhile, more sightings of the large drones continue to proliferate social media. New Jersey resident Michael Marciano capturing these images on Saturday.
Coming right above my house.
The FBI not
sounds like a helicopter.
On the drone activity.
That one sounded like an airplane.
News, but setting up a tip line for people to report any sightings.
It's moving really fast now.
Growing concern as the mystery in the sky continues. George Solis, NBC News, Toms River, New Jersey.
Thanks for watching. Stay up.
Yeah.
Yeah, that one seemed like an airplane. The one you could hear it.
Well, that's the thing is they don't. Some of them may actually be propeller drones.
Yeah,
we might actually see I wonder if we're seeing a mix of some sort of thing in our airspace and also military drones in response.
Right. I think that, just like with all of this stuff, UFO stuff and UAP stuff that we talked about, a lot of these cases are going to be false. Like a lot of these sightings are going to be false sightings.
There will be a lot of misidentifications for sure.
And so some of these videos that are coming out are likely,
but that
a lot of them going to be
that one did seem to portray the mass of what people are reporting.
Yeah.
Like the big chunk of those videos look just like that.
I would say like what I'm seeing with, if those are the drones that they're saying, it looks like drones that we see in like movies that the military uses in war zones.
Yeah.
Our military uses
the ones that are
winged
like,
drones that actually have propellers, and they're just unmanned.
Right.
They're used by.
They look like mini airplanes. Basically.
Yeah, they're little airplanes that nobody has to sit in, so they can just pack it full of equipment.
And they can be a lot smaller.
Yeah, and it can be much smaller, but it is an airplane, and it's got a propeller, and it's
Right. Some of them have propellers. Some of them don't.
Some of them, yeah.
Going up the shore.
Scott Ingenito was fishing Saturday at Island Beach State Park when he saw what he describes as lights brighter than stars forming over the horizon.
When they came toward the shore, it changed from a bright white light to a winged craft with flashing lights.
Doesn't seem to be bothered.
He says it was so strange, he's barely slept since.
It came directly over my head, which scared me.
See,
I don't know
looks
what it is. It's not a plane. If you've seen one, you'll know
It's the shape of a plane.
Yeah.
Without any answers from the feds,
The lights are
speculation
weird.
runs wild. Theories range from other
But it does
worldly
have like
UAPs
traffic lights on
to
there,
test
so
programs from
it's got like
Amazon
the
or Google.
identification.
Both tech giants tell us they're not responsible.
Whatever it is, if the government's not saying anything, it's really scary. I mean, if they have to know something after all this time.
They have to land somewhere, right? So why isn't somebody tracking it and seeing where it lands?
Middletown Mayor
point,
Tony
Vito.
Terry spoke to that point on the Pix 11 Morning News. He says commercial drones give off a signal that police can intercept.
Right.
These drones seem different.
State police have been unable to acquire a signal coming off of these drones to be able to lower them to the ground.
He says their estimated battery life is 6 to 8 hours, suggesting they're military grade.
The state keeps saying, and the federal government keeps saying, that there's no imminent threat. Until you tell me where these are coming from and who's responsible for them, they're an imminent threat.
Dude. So that makes me think of the movie Interstellar when he hijacks that drone.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the type of capabilities that we have to intercept these. Because they're sending signals and they have a signal.
People who aren't techies, the way drones work is, you got a remote control or like an app, or sometimes you can use VR, and you have a wireless electromagnetic radio connection to the drone, and that is how you control it. But if you have an either super advanced satellite system like the U.S. government, you can send those like way past the horizon, but still you're sending a signal. And if you're sending a signal, then you're susceptible to a jamming or a hijacking, in which you can pick up that signal and, override the commands, or presuming they have adequate security, you can just jam the signal.
And it would likely bring the thing down if you do either of those things. So that's what they're talking about.
These don't to give off those signals, and they can't.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Right. And that it's such a good point too. That until
maybe it's AI.
It's just
got a hold of drones, dude.
Yeah, it's kind of a contradiction to tell us we don't know what they are. They aren't ours. They aren't.
But you don't.
We don't think they're adversaries, but they also don't pose a threat. Like,
right, you can't make that assumption.
Those two sides of that argument don't work with each other. Like, you can't tell me we don't know what it is and tell me it's not a threat, especially with the behaviors that it's exhibiting.
And the non-ability to intercept a signal.
Right.
That makes me think that it's on board. Like that one guy, like he was talking about, the ability to link them. So like one goes down and the other one's the lead, but it's not actually communicating back to anywhere.
Mm-hmm.
That means they're freely operated within whatever system it is. What if it's AI?
Well,
and AI doesn't have. There's no.
It doesn't even need to be true AI. It can just be computer programmed. Like you can program it if you give it sensors and you give it a model of how to navigate, and you give it the ability to locate itself with GPS
and
other. It can know where it is, and you can tell it what you want it to do, and it can come back when it's completed its mission. And you don't need to send signals. And that's a smarter way to operate. That way, no jamming or hacking. You can close all of the communication channels so no one can interfere with it. And it's that's a better weapon. That's a better design, right?
True.
So that you wouldn't want to use one in warfare and then have the enemy just hack it, right? Or take it down. So if you were going to use one, you would want to harden it against that. And so the best way to do that is make it autonomous.
Mm-hmm. Maybe this is just the testing of those systems.
That's absolutely what could be. That's high up there. That's high up there on my list of possibilities.
Yeah.
But some of the information we'll probably be going over tonight is gonna challenge that too.
All right.
So
keep going.
All right. I just want to cover some basic facts I've been pulling together. Well, facts are observables that people have been throwing out there. None of these are necessarily super, super precise, but this is the gist of where we're at with this is that it's been going on for about a month now. And some of these have been reported to be just maybe 6 feet. Some of them they're saying the size of an SUV. So a little bigger than that, maybe 10, but not much bigger than that.
Yeah.
They do not exhibit what ufologists describe as the 5 observables. They're not exhibiting instantaneous acceleration. They're not exhibiting crazy G-forces or weird abilities to disappear, all of these types of things. You're not seeing that out of these. They fly like drones fly, which is why it's kind of an apt description, even if it's not
entirely accurate. Yeah.
Well, even if it's not a full picture, it's these are reported to stay in the air for 6 to 7 to 8 hours, which
is a lot longer for something of that size, right?
Commercial drones, you're lucky to get a few minutes. Once you get up into pro commercial, entry level pro, you maybe can get a little bit longer.
But hours, that many hours is
now you're talking. I mean, because most commercial drones are run off lithium-ion batteries, right? And the energy density in a lithium-ion battery for the weight is only so much. So you can only add on so much
for your
battery before you're adding an incredible amount of weight, right?
Yeah.
And so at a certain point, you might want to use a different fuel source. But commercial drones, because they usually run off lithium-ion batteries, they can only run so long.
Right. So that suggests that they have some sort of power source that is far beyond what we know.
Right. Well, or I mean, even if you use a gas powered, or jet fuel or whatever, you can do that type of stuff. It's that's more energy dense.
True.
But they're just not cheap. That's why commercial ones aren't made out of that stuff, because it's not cheap to have.
And it would need to be refueled.
Right.
So it would need to be going somewhere, and they haven't observed where it's going, where it can stay in the air in these areas for multiple hours.
So that's another one of the observables here, is that people have been mostly. There seems to be an emerging consensus that they're coming in off the coast.
Yeah.
And then they're sort of disappearing in off the coast as well. But it's unknown specifically where they go to. So,
which is crazy, with our capabilities, and the fact it seems like it's not being taken seriously enough at high enough levels that they're going to at least publicly do anything about it.
Yeah.
Or try to chase these things down, unless it is the government itself. And they just we're just going to pretend like it's not happening until we are forced. Right.
They're not broadcasting flight data either.
Right.
So
no black box.
Normally they have a transponder ping to make it, known to everyone in flight control everywhere, where your aircraft is, what type of aircraft it is, what's your altitude, your speed, your direction,
so everybody
stuff
knows
that.
How to avoid you,
so that you can put together that picture of what's going on everywhere.
That's an interesting.
But they're not broadcasting that. But they do have lights on, and they have red and green lights. which is interesting because it's like they want people to know they're there so that people can avoid them and not run into them and stuff like that.
But only from the ground, because those are all down-facing lights.
Mm-hmm.
So unless you,
well,
unless
I don't know that they all
forward-facing.
are. Anyway, no radio signals. That went over that in the video. Oh, and they've been flying over military bases. They've been flying over reservoirs. They've been flying over nuclear power plants. They've been flying over neighborhoods and the suburbs, and also over Trump's golf club and summer home, which is out there.
That's right.
So this is they're flying over sensitive things, which is not the behavior
that you want to see.
It makes it especially weird to make the statement that there's no threat.
Well, yeah, especially because they're
not
ignoring.
Us, it's not them. We don't see a reason to think there's a threat.
They're ignoring.
But they're flying over all these threatening places. Like, what if one just lost power and crashed into a nuclear power plant? You know what I'm saying?
Well, yeah, and the fact that they're flying over sensitive,
not saying that would take
sensitive
probably
military.
Take more than that to take one down, but still.
I mean, they're flying over these sensitive military, and it seems like the military is doing little to stop them. So,
if they're flying,
if a commercial airplane was to fly over one of those things, there'd be hell to pay.
Yeah, well, and
or even like a individual with their pilot's license flying over something like that.
People have tried to fly drones in Area 51 to get shot down instantly.
That's what I mean. And these are obviously whatever is up there is more expensive and more higher tech. Right. So I feel like you'd be more interested in it if it's not yours.
Right. All right, so here is White House Press Secretary Karine Jean-Pierre.
There have been repeated drone sightings in the Northeast, especially in New Jersey. These are not small drones, some of them pretty large. They're flying at low altitudes, they're flying in flocks. Has the president been briefed on this situation?
So we are certainly aware, the president is aware. So we're closely tracking the activity and coordinating closely with relevant agency, including DHS and FBI, to continue to investigate these incidents. Don't have anything beyond that to share. Obviously, this is something that DHS and FBI are tracking very, very closely, and so I would have to refer you to them directly, but aware. Keeping an eye out and looking into the incidents that you just mentioned.
Still though, but has the federal government ruled out that these are controlled by foreign entities?
Yeah.
And do you know if they're conducting surveillance over these areas?
I cannot make any kind of predictions or comments about that specifically from here. This is something that DHS is looking at and FBI, so I would have to refer you to them. I don't have anything beyond that. We're tracking this very closely. Obviously, we're all aware of the incidents that have been reported. I'm not going to go into what they could be or could not be from here. That is something that obviously is being looked at as those respective agencies that I mentioned.
When was the president briefed on this?
I don't have a timeline, but he certainly has been made aware of this.
They're so elusive, man.
Yeah, it's frustrating.
They're so damn elusive all the time.
Yeah.
They have a specific way they talk, and it's very condescending.
Yeah, and condescending. All right, so this next one, I forget who this guy is, but this is going to get the point across that sometimes these things are flying in packs, by the dozen or sometimes 50, like swarms sometimes. So check this out. Start that.
I was on the beach in Island State Park in Ocean County with the sheriff. He has been working it every single night. He's got his own tethered drones chronicling. One of his officers 2 nights ago saw 50 drones come in off the ocean right there. So we thought maybe they'll replicate it. They didn't, but we thought it was a possibility. Last night we had a number of other people there, including a commanding officer from the Coast Guard, who said that one of their 47-foot motor lifeboats was followed by between 12 and 30 of these drones as they went through the water, followed right behind them. So last night I was...
Dude, imagine that. I mean, you're talking about a sheriff and a Coast Guard and coming off the ocean. And there are some people who are claiming, like, and they're showing videos of them in the water, of something in the water.
I haven't seen videos of that.
I haven't seen nothing clear. I've seen lights underwater, and they're like
From
video.
this?
It's all wrapped into this, you know, drone sightings, and it's like off in the distance, and they're just looking at the water, and they see it like lights under the water.
I haven't seen anything.
They're
like
claiming.
that.
I didn't. I should have linked it. But yeah, they're claiming that it was light. It didn't come out of the water. You never saw it come out of the water.
I do have some interesting thoughts on the water, so we'll get to that. Here's the statement that they pose no threat.
In New Jersey, in Morris County, I don't know how many mayors sent a letter to you this morning asking for a clarification. What can you tell us? What is going on, and why is it taking so long to come up with an explanation?
Yeah, it's a good, I don't blame people for being frustrated. Let me say, most importantly, right up front, we see no evidence, and I say we, this includes Homeland Security, FBI, Secret Service, our state police, authorities at all levels of government. The most important point to say is we don't see any concern for public safety. That's number one. Number two, having said that, it's really frustrating that we don't have more answers as to where they're coming from and why they're doing what they're doing. We had last night 49 sightings. I think 20 of them were over 100. Now those include, I think I saw one mistaken a fixed wing aircraft, a plane, a small Piper Cub, for instance, for a drone, or you saw one and that counts, and then I saw the same one and that counts. So we think these are overstated, but it's a non-zero number. I was on with the White House and Homeland Security leadership literally at the very top yesterday for pretty much all day. I'm hoping we'll get answers sooner than later. I would just ask folks to continue to let the FBI or their local law enforcement know when they see something, and we'll continue to do everything we can with our federal partners to get clearer answers.
Why is it so hard to get answers?
These are apparently as I understand it, very sophisticated. The minute you get eyes on them, they go dark. And, you know, we're obviously most concerned about sensitive targets and sensitive critical infrastructure. So we've got military assets, we've got utility assets, we've got the president-elect's one of his homes here. This is something we're taking deadly seriously. We've gotten good cooperation out of the feds, but we need more, and that was my plea.
Finally, how much longer do you think?
I don't know, but if we have news, I'll let you know. The minute we know something, I'm not going to hide it under a bushel.
Governor, you have people saying, you know, I saw a drone and it was spraying something, or I saw a drone crash in my yard and it set off an alarm when I tried to go near it. There's a lot of fear amongst New Jersey residents. I mean, what is your message?
Well, the message I just gave. But by the way, we're not aware of any nefarious drone that has crashed, or if there is one that's crashed, could someone please call me and let me know where that is? There are a couple of rumored downings for one reason or another. One of them was a toy, the other one was never found. But having our...
And there was another rumored
more recently
today.
Yeah, because this video is from a few days ago.
Yeah.
I remember seeing it on Breaking Points, and that was a couple days ago now.
Yeah.
But, yeah, no, I mean, I feel like for was he a governor?
Governor or something? Maybe?
Or mayor?
Yeah, I think governor.
He did a decent job. He was basically just reiterating whatever he's being told from his higher up, saying, don't tell anybody that, you know, say there's no reason to fear them, or there's no public safety hazard here. But
it's just,
you give us no other information.
There's no information
so
with which to draw the conclusion that they pose no threat and say that.
Yeah. So, you know, that just makes me believe more that it's some sort of training or some sort of
that
testing.
Makes me lean that direction too, because that's the only reason why they can. But how often do you hear the argument that you want to avoid a public panic, right? And like how much do the people who know what's happening with these believe in that idea of public panics, and they're just trying to avoid it? And so regardless of what's actually happening, they're so worried about a public panic that's why they're holding the information.
Well,
right?
And it wouldn't make any sense.
So that could go to being American drones, but that also could go to being foreign drones, and they don't want to cause a panic.
And you don't want to start a war either, because if it is an act of war by invading our airspace and they're not necessarily ready or wanting to start a war and nothing has dropped yet as far as bombs go, they're like, hold your tongue. Or, and the point can be made if it is ours, why would you test them over where anybody can see them? And then not give us any information
unless they have an actual mission, like there's actually something they're trying to do,
something they're trying to actually accomplish. So they don't mind being seen, but they are still going to give limited
because there's plenty of stretches of coastline you could park and launch a bunch of drones into like mostly unpopulated area. Instead, you chose one of the most densely populated areas in the country.
Especially and over sensitive sites, so people are going to be worried about that.
Because these have been seen in New York and
Florida now. There's people saying that the
Pennsylvania, like that area, that whole area is seeing these. Anyway, here is a National Security Council coordinator.
Okay.
On the drones, does the U.S. government have any of its own imagery or video of these systems?
I'm not aware that we have U.S. government produced
national security
imagery ourselves, but as I said in my opening statement, we have certainly done thorough analysis of the existing imagery.
Like from people's cell phones that we're seeing? Basically, with what you're looking at, how can you credibly tell people that there is no public safety threat, there's no national security threat, that there's no reason to believe that a foreign government is involved?
Because the analysis thus far, in an investigation that is ongoing, has not revealed any national security or malicious intent or criminal activity. But, Jackie, I would remind you, we're at the beginning here, not the end. There's a lot more work to be done, and we're working closely with state and local authorities to gain more information. I would argue that we're moving pretty well here with a sense of energy to try to figure out what we can do to learn more about this. We're still in the middle of an ongoing investigation, and I'm up here explaining to you and letting you know what we know so far, what we believe so far. If information comes to light that changes that characterization, then my goodness, we'll be the first ones to let you know. But right now, there's just no indication that this is some sort of foreign malign activity or, in fact, even criminal.
Well, what I don't understand is, this has been happening since late November. I don't know that the law enforcement officials or residents in New York and New Jersey, or even the Democratic senators who wrote to Director Ray Mayorkas and the FAA administrator today would think that this has been handled with a sense of urgency. But that being said, has the President or the Secretary of Defense issued any guidance to NORTHCOM or military installations to act on these systems if they're deemed to be a threat in any way? And what's the benchmark for that determination?
So two thoughts. First of all, you're right, late November. It is now, the 12th of December. So I think it shows that we're moving on with this, and we're going to stay on it. So I want to disabuse you of any notion that we're not taking this seriously, because we are. I can also tell you that if the President, as Commander-in-Chief, believed, based on the information that he'd been given, that there was a national security threat at play here, or even a public safety threat at play here, he would issue the appropriate directives to not only law enforcement, but perhaps even the military if that was needed. I want to go back to something I said at the top. There has been no evidence of any of this activity in or near restricted spaces.
That's not what the senators said in the letter. They said, in fact, that they've been observed maneuvering their critical infrastructure, sensitive locations, including reservoirs and military installations, and cited a concern from law enforcement about public safety threats because a medevac helicopter was prevented from transporting a seriously injured patient for care because of the presence of these drones.
I stand by my opening.
That was so epic.
That was great. He just is not answering her great questions, man.
I know.
She's got great questions, and she's poking at him. Really
She's not accepting that. And then that face she made, ooh, that was just perfect. Little cherry on top. She's like, so
what?
Are you just gonna...
You just bullshitting us?
Yeah. You just said one thing, and...
Yeah.
Come on.
Because I think people in New York and New Jersey see drones the size of an SUV over their house every night and think that that doesn't make any sense.
Certainly I understand why people would be looking at this and being concerned about it. We're concerned about it too, which is why we have the Department of Homeland Security and the FBI, my goodness, looking at this. And we're taking it seriously. We understand that people are concerned. We understand that. They got questions. We got questions too. And we're working hard to get the answers to that. What I can tell you as we sit here today, at 2:16 in the afternoon on the 12th, is we haven't seen any indication thus far that there's a public safety risk, and we haven't seen...
The government know what they are.
We are still investigating this. I can't tell you definitively. I cannot characterize for you definitively what these sightings are. I can just go back to what I said at the opening. We've looked at the imagery. We can't corroborate some of the reported sightings through our own expert analysis using sophisticated detection techniques. But that doesn't mean that, we're putting our pen down here this afternoon and calling it a day. We're going to keep at this.
What are you doing now?
We are continuing to investigate it, as I said in my opening statement, 2 federal agencies.
You get the gist, man.
It's just not good enough, man. Especially because we're weeks out, and I wish we were seeing them here. Not that I want it to be bad, and I want to see. Because we are not seeing them. My point is, because we are not seeing them, we are reliant on the videos and everybody else's accounts.
Everyone else's accounts, yeah.
So, to not defend him, but if what it is just a some sort of commercial thing or private entity that has gotten approvals, but the thing, and who's doing the who's actually doing the citizens investigation?
They clearly have to have radar data, and how have they not had their own aircraft up there to check this out?
You've seen the sheriffs and the
they
local
also have satellite,
right? And he's just not telling us that they're doing that.
Obviously, if it's theirs, they know. Yeah. So that kind of sets up, it's theirs, and they just don't want to say anything. But if that is the case, they are essentially pulling a crazy operation that the people have the right to know what the hell is going on. If it's not them, then that's even worse.
Absolutely. I would love to see, because obviously we're not going to get the answers we want, even if they do know what it is, and if it's not theirs and they know what it is, and they're just washing their just staying neutral on it until something happens. But if it is theirs and they're not telling us, it's we may never get the answers. It might just be buried, and it'll be like, no, it was nothing. You guys are just making too much of this.
Yeah.
But I would love to see a citizens investigation, people, with the technology, or at least with the capabilities to go out to these areas and use their equipment to try to detect these things, try to see these radio waves themselves, and live stream it or make a video on it and show the rest of us.
I have seen a lot more posts, because it seems to have like hit the like critical mass over the last like 3 to 4 days of like now it's on fire on the internet.
Yeah.
And so I think I have been seeing posts of people like being like, all right, well, I'm about to go out there with my like high grade equipment and my drones and stuff and try and see what I can see.
Because the initial stuff too, and you know, and a lot of what you're going to see on the internet too is like people taking one video and one tagline and then taking that and using it for their own. So that's 2 sightings now and saying it was their own. and using, you know, clever ways of like flipping the camera to make it look like it's different, you know. So there's probably a handful of that, which is, you know, inflating the internet with a lot of these videos too.
Yeah.
So it's hard to like to know exactly what you're saying, or one zoomed in super far on a video that's existing, but it's super far zoomed out, you know. Anyway.
Yeah, but you can see these on things like...
I want to see some more. I know we have some of them, more videos of the actual...
Yeah. We got a bunch.
Yeah.
And you can also see them on like the New Jersey beaches. A lot of them have like live streaming webcams. And you can go into those and just see them come in off the coast on those.
Somebody's got
one. I did that yesterday.
Oh, you did? You found one?
Yeah.
Oh, that would be cool to do. I'm going to have to send me that.
Yeah. All right. Anyway, let's go for our next break here, and we'll be back in a few.
All right.
Welcome back. All right, so let's get back into this. So this one's kind of longer. I think I might skip to hear what Christopher Mellon and Ryan Graves have to say. We have represented.
All right. This is on Chris Cuomo's show on News Nation.
Yeah.
Was telling the truth. It's very likely that these are drones from foreign adversary. And if you don't believe that the U.S. government would cover something up, just look at how they responded with the Chinese spy balloon.
No, that's a good point. And look, you know this. You're in Florida. Mellon knows this. Graves knows this. A lot of these drones, like the ones we're showing right now, you see navigation lights on them. You see a red and a green. You know this from boating and down, so they have the same things. Aircraft are the same thing that boats do. They have a red and a green. So it's not like they're from some outer atmosphere. Let me start with you, Mr. Mellon. Do you believe that there are more and that it's understood and explainable?
I believe there are more. I think it's important for people to understand that this has been going on since at least 2017. Which is to say these smaller, brightly lit, drone-like vehicles violating restricted U.S. military airspace in sensitive areas around nuclear power facilities, nuclear weapons storage facilities. A year ago today, roughly, this was Langley Air Force Base was taken offline by drones. And that continued that was exactly a year ago this month. And that was about a year after there was a similar sort of pattern in the western United States for several months near some of our ICBM fields. So it's troubling that after all this time, we still haven't captured any of these things. We still haven't brought them down.
Do we know that?
Where they're coming from. We are really in a position of ignorance here, and hopefully this will maybe at long last, after all these prior events and the Chinese balloon, get some people to take a hard look at what do we need to do to get our hands on one of these things so we can get to the bottom of this.
Right. I mean, look, Chris, you know better than I do, but I don't know that they haven't gotten any of them. I would read it another way, just as somebody who's been in the business of deception detection for 25 years, that, that calmness of them being not concerned about it is usually a function of having information. And Ryan...
Oh, he's about to go to Ryan here, so that's what I want to see.
Down, or what they found on the ground, and programs that use a lot of money to use special operators to go and recover these things. But SUV-sized drones, I can't find those on the commercial market. I've been looking for days. How do you explain that part? You think people just get the size wrong, Ryan?
Well, there always is some uncertainty when it comes to judging a moving object in the sky, especially at night and especially as a single source of light. But these things appear to be close enough to the ground where I think I have pretty high confidence in the size predictions that they're estimating, give or take 20%. But, these sizes and these types of behaviors are something that we've seen and we've talked about, Chris, over the years, starting at Virginia Beach, working its way further north into the Langley area, and perhaps now into New Jersey. I don't think we can conclusively say that they're inherently linked necessarily, but with the mixed messages that we're getting between the legislative branch and between the executive branch, it really feels like the Biden administration is gaslighting us on the seriousness of this issue.
Hey, thanks for watching.
Yeah, that's a good point. It does, whatever it is, it's happened for a long time, so... And that's what Ryan Graves has reported on since he's been in the public sphere.
Yep. So then there was a particular representative, Rep. Jeff Van Drew, and he came out and he said that he's like, I'm just going to tell you, these are being launched by an Iran mothership. So let's take a look at that clip.
Congressman Jeff Van Drew of New Jersey, member of the House Judiciary Committee on the Hill right now. How do you address this at this point?
Well, here's the real deal, Harris. I'm also on the Transportation Committee, on the Aviation Subcommittee, and I've gotten to know people. And from very high sources, very qualified sources, very responsible sources, I'm going to tell you the real deal. Iran launched a mothership probably about a month ago that contains these drones. That mothership is off, I'm going to tell you the deal. It's off the east coast of the United States of America. They've launched drones, is everything that we can see or hear. And again, these are from high sources. I don't say this lightly. Now, we know there was a probability It could have been our own government. We know it's not our own government because they would have let us know. It could have been some really glorified hobbyists that were doing something unbelievable. They don't have the technology. But let's pretend that's possible. The third possibility was somebody, an adversarial country, doing this. Know that Iran made a deal with China to purchase drones, motherships, and technology in order to go forward. The sources I have are good. They can't reveal who they are because they are speaking to me in confidentiality. These drones should be shot down. Whether it was some crazy hobbyist that we can't imagine, or whether it is Iran, and I think it very possibly could be, they should be shot down. We are not getting the full deal, and the military is on alert with this.
Look, you've given us some pretty dire information just here, and I want to make sure that our viewers are digesting this. Iran has the capability to pull up along our eastern seaboard and launch drones the size of an SUV into the skies of several states, particularly New Jersey, where we know the incoming president has a large home, also in the same county or nearby where some of these drones in New Jersey have been seen.
And so that's just after this, basically a whole bunch of people came out and then the government denied it and the military denied it and everyone denied that it was Iran. And then I saw a thing today, which I don't know the credibility of either, where it actually showed a photo of this proposed like mothership, which is like a submarine basically that can like surface, or like a vessel that can like can launch a bunch of these. It's like an aircraft carrier but for drones. Anyway.
Yeah, I mean, that would be something that the government should have its eyes on immediately. If something like that was to surface in the waters off the coast of our country and then launch drones over it, and it's not ours, I mean, if they're not able to detect that, I mean, we've got a serious problem.
We've got a serious problem. And I've heard it said that Iran would have actually purchased this technology from like someone like China, right? And so that opens up the possibility that it could be like China, it could be Russia, and to me those make a little different sense in different ways, especially the idea of Russia, because they also launched that ICBM recently as a warning to us for authorizing the use of long range strikes into Russia for Ukraine. And there was a recent interview with Tucker Carlson and a high level Russian
diplomat or something.
Yeah, and he explained, I mean, we did that to say, hey, look what we can do. We're just letting you know what our capabilities are here. Yeah. And if you guys don't back down, we're going to keep letting you know because this could get really out of control. Anyway, so it could be something like that too. And that would explain why, because the thing that doesn't make sense about it being a foreign is why would the lights be on?
Yeah, you'd think they just come
Wouldn't
in
you
dark.
just turn off the lights?
Especially if it's on some sort of automated platform where they don't have the signals. You'd think you'd have the capabilities of having it mapped out.
Right.
You wouldn't need or want your navigational lights on.
So what boosts the credibility of a foreign threat is if they want you to know, because this is specifically a warning.
Yeah.
And it sort of works in motivation with that context. Not that I'd like saying for sure it is them and no one else is. I'm not really hearing anyone else talk about that either, but that's kind of where my brain goes with this.
Sure.
If it's a foreign adversary anyway. But still could be our own government. And then Lou Elizondo has his own sort of take on that, and I want to go to his. His is a lot longer. Oh yeah, I said 140. Okay, so let's check out
in the United Kingdom to videoing them on camera, and a lot of people are asking the question: well, are they ours? right? And then when you ask the Department of Defense, they say, no, it's not ours. And you ask other organizations. So let's talk about a little bit what we do know. And let me caveat this by saying I just came back from the United Kingdom, and this is not a U.S. problem. This is a problem that we're seeing, frankly, around the world, around a lot of our installations. And same with our allied partners. In the UK, you had an issue there kind of recently with the Manchester airport. Turned out it was probably not UAP or drone related. It was probably a Chinese lantern. But there are drone activity right now of unknown sources, unknown origins, over several joint military installations in the United Kingdom, to the point where the locals are getting very concerned, and frankly, so is the British government. And frankly, they should be, because these are bases where traditionally the United States and the UK have worked very closely together and have held some pretty sensitive things in those locations. I'm not sure if I can talk about that, what those sensitive equities are or were. I know a lot of it's out in the open press, but just because of that, it doesn't give me an excuse. I may not be able to talk about it. So let's just say that there are some very sensitive equities at these locations that we would consider being crown jewels for our national security. Also, let's look at this on the backdrop of where we are right now with Russia and China, right? Things are heating up a lot with Russia, unfortunately. And there's been a lot of back and forth. And for those of you who know, who lived through the Cold War, Russia has always been an incredible chess master. If you look at the Cold War as being a chess match between two superpowers, Russia is very, very good. They think very asymmetrically. And so we need to consider that right now. Politics aside, whether you're for or against or anything like that, let's just look at the reality here. The U.S. and Russia right now are not on very friendly terms. And both of us have weapons of mass destruction, particularly nuclear equities. So let's talk about this topic. What we do know? What we do know is that these things are being seen over New Jersey, but they've also seen over the president's, future president's Mar-a-Lago location as well. We've seen them over recently Langley Air Force Base down by the Chesapeake. And let's not forget that several years ago, roughly 5 years ago, we had the same issue in Colorado. And people in Colorado and Nebraska, to include law enforcement and sheriffs, were chasing these drones that seemed to be doing a grid pattern. What about the drones themselves? Well, we know that some of them have been reported to be the size of an SUV, possibly much, much larger. They do tend to have strobing lights, at least some of them. And in some cases, there seems to be a sound, a whirring sound, which is quite typical of a quadcopter, any type of drone that's using a propeller to mechanically provide lift for itself. So those are some of the things we do know. We also know that no one's taking credit for it. No hobbyists, no clubs out there flying these things. And no state government or local government as well. And apparently neither is DOD. Now, the FBI is investigating this. They have said for the record they've been investigating this now for the last 30 days, the last month. There are people that are getting very concerned about this topic because these things are not only flying over controlled airspace, but they're also flying over civilian and populated areas. So there should be an issue here. What I want to do is talk to you about two other possibilities regarding these drones. And again, let me emphasize here, these are only hypothetical, but I don't think we can discount them. Let's look at the reaction. If we're talking about an SUV-sized drone, okay, these are not hobby drones. Something like that would be enormously expensive. And then you've got a problem with power, right? These drones tend to be electrically powered, meaning there's a battery in there, usually some sort of lithium-ion battery that you can recharge, and you can fly these things around. And if you're lucky, you get 15, 20 minutes as a result. That's not the case here. Some of these drones are being seen for, in some cases, hours at a time. So we're dealing with a drone, if it's a drone, with something that has one heck of a capability that hobbyists probably would never be able to afford. So we're probably talking a state-sponsored capability. Only a big nation that has the ability to put the R&D, research and development money into developing a large type, if you will, SUV-sized drone would have the means to do something like that and then deploy it, right? It's not just building it and flying it, but taking it to the location that you want it to be to do its job and be able to do it anonymously. Then you have another issue here. So you have the loiter problem, where these things are flying for hours, not minutes. You have the size problem. These are huge in some cases. An SUV is a very large, you're talking a very substantial size drone. This is not a quadcopter. This is something different, something bigger, something that potentially a human being could fit into. So it's probably more than just 4 rotors. And then you have the transmission issue. Most drones use line of sight. Certainly hobby drones and even commercial drones use line of sight, meaning you have to be within line from where you are transmitting your signal to fly this thing to the receiver on board the drone. That's going to take those signals and interpret them and fly the way you want it to fly. Now, there are over-the-horizon capabilities for drones. Certainly, we see them all the time, right, when we're talking military, but not so much civilian. Because if you want to fly a drone remotely and over the horizon, which, by the way, may be plus or minus 9 to 11 miles, you need the ability to repeat, if you will, or if you what we call a repeater type capability, where you take that signal and you bounce it off of something. So maybe an aircraft that's flying over the horizon that can transmit that signal beyond where you're standing, or potentially something that's space-based, right? Something that talks to a satellite and then beams it down. So the horizon really doesn't mean very much. Those are some of the ways you could do it. But again, that's very, very complex. It's very sophisticated. It takes a lot of money to do that and a lot of planning. And we still don't have any points of origin where these things are coming from, right? Now, we have radar, a very, very capable radar that we use to track aircraft. And there's transponders in those aircraft that, if you will, they squawk their location and their identity. But we're not seeing that with these drones. These drones are flying anonymously and in some cases appear to be communicating with each other or coordinating their movement with each other. So if these are drones, these are certainly something far more sophisticated than what we're used to dealing with, certainly as civilians. Mm-hmm. So we...
Yeah. Those are all good details. Well, I'm trying to find the part where he gets into his 2 options because, well, I guess I'll just summarize it. I'll link the video. He's essentially giving, I don't know what a second one is, but one of the scenarios what I thought was pretty interesting was that he's saying that, no, you didn't let me find it. Okay. Because it sounds better coming from him, but he's basically saying, like, if there was like a UFO and then these drones were maybe our response to it to track it down or something.
Not United States.
Yeah.
Like it's maybe there was a UFO got downed. Is that what you're thinking? Or is there's a UFO in the area and these drones are just trying to track them, and so admitting that they're ours and what they're doing,
which could go into like the previous, episodes where we were talking about the one we showed earlier about the melee in the sky, right?
Yeah. Interesting.
States,
so it could be considered a melee.
Explain a lot of the responses we're seeing, right? Where local law enforcement isn't being informed of what's going on. State law enforcement and a nation, maybe we got a report or suspicion that some adversarial nation has a weapons of mass destruction somewhere here in the continental United States, and so we are deploying these vehicles in attempt to sniff them out, if you will, try to locate these things if it's true. Again, I have no information to indicate that there is indeed some sort of broken arrow situation or where we have some sort of weapons of mass destruction here in the continental United States, but it would explain a lot of the responses we're seeing, right? Where local law enforcement...
No, he's saying that aren't ours.
No, I know, yeah.
Isn't being informed of what's going on. State law enforcement and officials aren't being informed, and yet someone in a federal agency is spending money and time and resources to do this. Now, what scenario would predicate such an act? Well, if there was something so scary, so dangerous, that maybe they don't want to scare the people. Maybe they want to try to do this in a way that doesn't cause mass panic, right, or something.
I'm pause it real quick. My thought, and this is my theory, I'm coming up with on the fly here, is it's Elon Musk, and he has this swarm of drones that are now outfitted to protect Trump from maybe information that he got about another assassination attempt.
Whoa, interesting. All right.
And now they're basically over the areas where he's going, and they're maybe now part of his personal protection because he no longer trusts the Secret Service. So now Elon Musk is deploying technology to help keep Trump safe.
Except I think he's probably hanging out down at Mar-a-Lago, not at his summer home.
But they said
in
there's
the middle of
reportings
December.
there. They said there's reportings of these UAP over Mar-a-Lago.
Well,
as
not
well.
right now, I don't think. I think there have been, but yeah.
Trump was just in New York for the New York Stock Exchange.
Oh,
and
interesting.
addressing the New York Stock Exchange.
All right. I see. Okay.
That's my working theory.
It's possible that you could have, for example, a UAP being seen over a sensitive U.S. facility or installation. And so what do? We launch our drones, because typically in the past we used to fly helicopters, but helicopters are expensive. And let's face it, you may have one or two if you're lucky, if it's available to you. And there's time it takes to get a pilot, wake them out of bed, have them go to the helicopter, start it up and fly it. By then, whatever it is you're chasing is long gone. So it makes sense that you have these quick response, quick reaction drones on or near military installations that if there was an event, you could launch these immediately. In fact, almost autonomously, and they would all go to a pre-arranged location and start surveying the area to see if they can find what's in and around the area. So is it possible that some people are seeing UAP initially, and then the government's response is to launch these drones to try and find these things in a relatively quick and efficient manner? And so what people are seeing, in some cases, some are seeing the initial UAP, whereas others are now seeing the follow-on response, the U.S. response, and trying to identify these things. Is that a possibility? I think so. That certainly could be a possibility. Drones now and drone technology is becoming far more pervasive. It's very efficient.
That's a good point.
That's such a good point.
Yeah, he did a good job explaining that idea.
Yeah.
That would make sense. Yeah, deploying some sort of forward, trying to get ahead of it.
So let's look at some of these videos that don't look just like quadcopters with the red and green blinking lights. So check this out.
Oh my God. Yeah, I've seen this one. Oh my God.
That doesn't look like a quadcopter.
No. That looks like what Terrence Howard was describing.
That looks like from the book of Ezekiel, like
the Ezekiel wheel.
Yeah. That's dude, crazy.
That reminds me of like Terrence Howard's description of the drone technology that he can do with his whole idea of that shape, that like inverted shape that he described.
Mm. All right, and then here's one from like a professional photographer, but
of that same object too, it looks like. It's like a still image of that moving image.
Yeah. He's got
time. I try to zoom in with my camera all the way up to the drone. This is what I get.
Dude, yeah, like, and there's the people that we were talking about when we were outside of it that are saying like they see like what looks like an orb moving, and then when it gets to a place where that it's close enough for them to actually like see it, like almost morphs into like a plane.
Mystery drones in the air.
Whoa.
Some of them are more like classic UFO orbs.
Quick.
Yeah. That's instant acceleration right there.
What in the world is happening?
And that looks like something.
They like joined with the orb, and then they shot off.
Update, but that mystery drone up there is still there. It's been like maybe 10-15 minutes.
Wow, that's a good video.
Here's this one.
It's moving. What is that? What is that? What is that? It's
this thing right here.
So
there was one that went to the right too. That's a street light, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
That's the one that went to the right.
That's like a UFO.
Yeah, it's not moving fast enough to be like a standard plane.
It's moving. It's moving.
Or even like one of those UAV, like
Right. Like some of the ones that look fixed wing, they look like they're moving too slow. Yeah.
Like the UAVs that you see that they deploy in war zones. Like, yeah, they're unmanned, like they're drones, but they move. They can't just slow down and stop.
This is one of the ones that looks more like a quadcopter.
Yeah, that looks exactly like a quadcopter.
But that's a really good image.
Yeah, you can almost see the rotors.
Yeah.
So I mean, I'm sure there are people launching their own quadcopters too. Like they're like, oh, let's go see, like launch our cool, sophisticated one. Like when I worked out at the university, we would see the researchers there deploy a drone out in the field. And they'd fly it and super high. It looks just like that. And it's big. Like it was like 4 feet like wide.
Yeah.
Massive thing.
Yeah.
And they were just testing it out because they built it or something and they were using it for some sort of science.
Yeah, over Davis.
Yeah.
Here's another one. Where's our audio here?
It says it's muted.
Right there.
I got reports that there were drones actively happening in Monmouth County. So I raced up to Monmouth County and pulled off near Red Bank. And sure enough, I looked up in the sky in the town and saw one. So I followed it to a residential area and got out of my car, took out my iPhone and started filming it.
I can't believe I'm seeing this.
And it was about 150 feet overhead. At that point, I said, look, my iPhone's not capturing this. I called my photographer, who was about half an hour behind. I said, get up here with your camera right now. He came and met me, and for the next 2 hours, we traveled to various spots around Monmouth County. And I believe we saw over 50 of these drones. And I gotta say, if this is not the military, it's even more terrifying. These things they look like they're fixed wing, and they have multiple lights. There's a red light, on some of them there's a green light, then there's easily 3 white blinking lights. They go at the usual cadence. We tried to chase one, and it
see, that one looked like a fixed wing.
And that may be our military response to some of these other more unusual.
Right. We could have drones from 2 countries flying around right now.
Or something entirely different.
Check this one out though.
Yeah.
What the heck is that?
That looks like almost. That looks like some thing from Star Wars.
That looks like a freaking Star Wars.
And it also kind of reminds me of that Manchester airport.
Yeah.
Like orb that they saw. Are they up in an airplane taking this video, or up on a building?
Maybe on a hill or something. I don't know.
Or just on a hill looking down. Yeah, maybe.
That's pretty crazy.
Whoa.
I had to go run in and get my camera.
Running gases on a plane.
That's with my camera. Look at this thing.
There's no lights on it. You're just seeing it because you're seeing it on the backdrop of the sunset.
That's pretty crazy.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Whoa.
And then I got another one with the lights out.
Yeah.
But that one looks like a quadcopter with the lights out. Especially when it's zoomed in, like you can almost see him rotating here.
Yeah, he looks like something is rotating. What the hell, man?
Dude.
Yeah, down there, right below it, it's the Xbox symbol. That's what I thought of too. That's what I thought of. Xbox Inc.
Dude, some of the memes from this have just been fantastic.
I know. You can get lost in the comments.
Yeah, there was a sheriff like trying to ask for like a state of emergency so that they could issue like a no-fly order on drones.
Just see if that actually changes.
Just to at
anything.
least like. But then I also saw other people posting that like they tried to fly their drones and that their drones wouldn't work.
Yeah, where
like,
they were being disabled like immediately once they try to launch it.
Like they were giving the message that the battery was dead, but the battery wasn't dead. They would take a battery right off the charger and switch it with a fresh one, and it wouldn't work.
Yeah, it just wouldn't let them put a drone up.
Yeah,
or even operate. Like it was draining their battery somehow.
Mm-hmm. But I'm surprised there's not some nerd who hasn't built their own drone that doesn't have that sort of backdoor like shut off access. You know, who
I mean, unless it's maybe
hasn't
it is some
taken
sort
a
of
photo,
like super
you know,
advanced
with
jamming.
their drone.
Well, and you saw the sheriff.
Yeah.
They launched theirs. You saw them launch theirs.
Right. What else do I have? I have an interesting post here. I think someone's making a point about it being military. So for those hashtag New Jersey drones, this post was made a few hours ago in the NJ Drones or Mystery Drones group on Facebook, which has almost 20,000 members. It's like 40 or 50,000 now, sharing videos and tracking drones. Not only was the post removed from Facebook, but it was then moved to Reddit, and they also removed it. So, post by Dale Lasher here says, I can tell you right now, they're military drones, are military. I have a commercial drone license, and they know when my drone is up after it reaches 50 feet. They can assign a unique signature to it and track it on radar like a heat-seeking missile, for example, until it goes below 50 feet again. I talked to a friend in the military who works with drones. He said 100% these are our drones, and they would only be used in such excess for a serious reason, and gave examples like tracking nuclear fallout from a dirty bomb that went off, tracking biological weapons, tracking WMDs, or searching for a credible threat. I know of 2 families that left the state to stay with family elsewhere. They're both in the military. Guess what? Both of the family's husbands are deployed. That is what they're going to.
That is why.
That is why they're going to stay with family. Sus. And then some of the commenters were saying a friend of theirs also left 2 months ago, left business at all, ex-military. Sus is right. Now that you said that, I know I gotta, yeah. So everyone's like, wait a minute, all the freaking military families are clearing out of our area.
That's interesting.
Yeah. So I don't know what to think of that exactly.
Well, I mean, and that was kind of the point that was made. I think it was by Ryan Graves or somebody, or one of those guys on that panel. That, or maybe it was even Lou. I don't know. They're all kind of jumbling together now. Anyway, that if you would see these, if the military was tracking, like if the military was launching something like this over our airspace, and they're going to be quiet about it, because especially if it's something that would absolutely cause panic.
Right.
At least that's their MO, right? They try to avoid the mass panic.
The other thing that
and try to control the information from the public. So if this is a credible threat, or there is some sort of credible threat of, mass, casualties potentially, and they're just trying to figure out what the hell's going on, and like they're launching these drones and they're combing the area.
If it's true that a bunch of military families are leaving an area, like that would definitely give you pause.
Absolutely, especially because we're talking about months now of this happening in this area.
So check this out. I found this. This is not from New Jersey, but I just want you to see that this is a thing that can happen even with like university students and stuff. So he flew his drone into a freaking pool. The propellers flip upside down.
Around, and now it's an underwater freaking UAV.
Yeah.
So it's not infeasible for these to be docking underwater off the coast.
Which makes it more explainable why it could be so covert and not know where they're being launched from.
Where they're launching and going back to.
So, and then, towards the end of the video here, it goes back up, flips them.
And it's able to launch out of the water?
Yeah, dude.
What the fuck? That's crazy. Wow.
So, we know it's possible.
Yeah. What the hell?
Isn't that cool? That's some...
You're telling me we don't have some technology like
whatever
that in the
kid
military?
at whatever university, like, that's his project, like, he's got a bright future ahead of him.
Holy.
That's amazing.
Oh, man.
Then, last night there were lights spotted over LaGuardia Airport and all over, like, New York. I have some pictures.
That's where Trump was, man.
So here's the LaGuardia.
Oh, yeah, it's Elon. They're moving so slow.
Yeah.
Or not moving at all, it seems like. So they're hovering.
I mean, that just
is
looks
that an
like...
airplane landing right here on the left?
Yeah, this is
So
just
then-
airplanes lined up to land here, but then you see the drone over here. Like, this is showing you that at the airport, they're flying around the airport. Drone.
How do we know? Yeah.
But
I mean, what's in
then
this
you
one?
got the airplanes coming to land. So
And how do
the
we
fact
know
that they're even that close is pretty crazy. If that's in fact what we're seeing there.
Right, if
So-
that's not, in fact, like just an airplane, you know?
Yeah.
Like circling around, because we know that airplanes do that. They'll
Well,
circle
yeah,
an
but
airport.
those were, the other one was pretty low.
That one was very low in comparison to the ones that were landing. But we got to think of perspective, too.
Right. Totally. Anyway, so man, there's so much. They got a few more things here. So I'll leave a link to this. This is Island Beach State Park beach cam live stream. You can pull this up and you can watch it live.
Let's watch a little bit of it.
Yeah.
Is this it?
This is
Or
it. Yeah. It's pretty bad quality at night, this camera. See a couple blinking things out here, but some people have like snips of this camera showing the drones coming in.
This looks like the.
But you can also just search New Jersey. What did I search?
Right there, Seabright, New Jersey webcam.
Yeah, here's another one. Oh, this was a person claiming. People are funny.
Ads. Come on.
No, we're against this. There's a lens flare in this, and I went on the Facebook group, which I'll link. You should join the Facebook group because people are constantly posting updates. But people were showing the lens flare in this and being like, "There's a portal in the sky."
I mean, it would be interesting if you saw something pop out of it, but
for sure. Oh, the broadcast isn't working.
It ended.
I guess the portal was real.
Sucked in the camera.
Anyway, so yeah, there was a Facebook group. There's a possible drone landing or crash.
Oh, yeah.
In Hillsborough Township, New Jersey. There's a bunch of video of emergency crews out here.
Search is ongoing right now in an area between or just off of Route 206 in Hillsborough near Falcon Road, and we can see a staging area by Somerset County hazardous material units, some other county officials, as well as Hillsborough agencies as well. We also understand the FBI is aware of the incident. Again, this is a search ongoing. It is primarily happening in a wooded area just adjacent to a shopping center, again in the area of Route 206 in Falcon Road. At this point, officials are not able to make any other statements as to the status of this investigation and what details they are that are known at this time and what they're able to share. But there we can see some of the firefighters that have been walking around in an area, again, just off of Route 206 near Falcon Road. We have seen them doing basically a wide area search on foot, as well as several all-terrain.
Right now they're doing a wide area search on S. But they also has been
I saw
people speculating that the drones are these things. So this is a type of drone that can switch from like a quadcopter to a winged configuration.
So they can do vertical takeoffs.
Yeah,
and
check
landings.
this thing out.
Oh, wow. Dynamics.
Yeah, we don't need the music, but look at this thing taking off.
Yeah.
This is a pretty clever design.
Absolutely. And then the wings start sliding forward slowly as the blades change.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah. So the wing is changing the pitch of it, so it's going to start moving it forward slowly.
And they can compensate for that with the
with the rudders.
propeller speeds and stuff and the rudders, until they get enough forward momentum to start to go fully winged.
Well, and we have jets now that can do vertical takeoffs, too.
But that sort of transformer configuration is pretty crazy, huh?
Wow. So, yeah, maybe they're testing that stuff.
Yeah.
And I mean, that's the thing. The thing that's driving me nuts is nobody's claiming it.
I love they're making this super complicated thing, and it's just showing this guy soldering a standard like 9-pin comm cable. Like that's so low tech right there.
Damn. Vertical takeoff.
And then there's been people claiming and posting of these things like I don't think I saw it in this one as much. Like spraying.
Oh yeah, I've seen some of the like they have some sort of tail. Some sort of contrail.
So imagine if these aren't ours, if they're not, and they're actually like you could like fly over an area and like drop some sort of agent. Like that's terrifying. That is really terrifying.
Oh, 100%. Yeah.
All the freaking people who've been into chemtrails all this time are like, see, I've been telling you.
Yep. Well, I mean, it's absolutely a possibility. We know that it's a possibility. Yeah. We know that we have airplanes that spray fields all the time.
Oh, for sure. For sure.
So it's not like this is uncommon, but, you know, this if it was a foreign actor to have that sort of penetration into our airspace and nothing being done would be terrifying.
Yeah. Anyway. I think that's about all I have together. I could also recommend, I watched this live stream from Red Panda Koala. If you haven't seen his YouTube channel, he's got a bunch of really good like UFO documentaries and stuff.
Okay.
And so he's been live streaming every day doing updates on this stuff. I also just saw an update from Richard Dolan. Well, I saw that I didn't have time to actually watch it. He's got about half hour or something to say, and I always take whatever he says like pretty seriously. He's the one that wrote that 2-volume history of ufology, of the UFO phenomenon that we read from on our first UFO episode. So I like his stuff. Anyway, so I'll link to some of that for you guys. But yeah, it's still a big mystery. Is it UFOs? Is it U.S. government? Is it a foreign government?
Yeah.
We don't know, man.
Yeah, and hopefully we get some answers soon or some sort of clarification on what's going on.
Yeah.
And we'll, on our next episode, we'll update you with anything that, we might do a quick section on it or segment on it.
Yeah.
If there's anything new to
as
talk
it
about.
continues to develop and if it keeps staying interesting and developing, we'll keep bringing it up.
Yep.
So
just like we do.
Yeah.
But yeah, if you're listening to this on, Spotify or any of the like audio platforms, I highly recommend you go into our YouTube or Rumble. We'll have all the video in line and in sync with our audio, so you can watch everything as we're talking about it. Like, subscribe, follow on any of those platforms. You can rate us in iTunes, and
you can also give comments and ratings on episodes in Spotify.
Oh yeah, nice. Yeah,
also, if you do leave us a comment, since you're all hopefully watching this on YouTube or Rumble, give us a comment. Tell us what you think these are.
Yeah.
Both of those platforms have an easy way to comment and give us a thumbs up. Give us a subscribe while you're there. We're trying to grow our subscriber count, and we're still new and growing. And share it to someone if you want to kind of give them a nice little clearinghouse for how to learn about these New Jersey drones. It'll really help us out.
Absolutely.
Any little bit helps us grow. Thank you.
Yeah, and you can check out our website, dualitycheck.net. You can email us directly at host@dualitycheck.net if you want to get involved in the conversation more directly. So, that's it.
Sweet. Thanks, will
y'all.
see you guys next time.
Later.
Bye.